You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
You're listening to the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Sabres Edition, your source for all news, press conference reactions, analysis, and objective discussions regarding the NHL's Buffalo Sabres from right here in the Niagara region. Here are your hosts, Brandon Caputo and Austin Broad.
Welcome back, Sabres fans, to another episode of the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Sabres Edition right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network, your March 12th, 2021 edition. Your source of North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here in the beautiful Niagara region. Find us on social media for updates, giveaways, and sponsorship promo codes by following the podcast on Twitter at ArmchairGMPod, as well as this show's podcast at AGM SabresPod. Make sure you're following that account as well. And you can like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Listen to us on our main platform, which is Spreaker.com and the free Spreaker app, as well as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network, of course. And lastly, our beautiful user-friendly website, armchairgmsports.com, for all things regarding our network, including articles, podcast episodes, sponsors, and contributors. Everything's on there for you guys. Please go and check that out, and please give us a like and a subscribe, whatever platform you're listening to us right now. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the Sabres Edition podcast. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13 with a Canadian Z. And I'm always very pleased to be joined on the Sabres portion of the network by my friend. He is contributing writer for the ChargingBuffalo.net, as well as Dauber Prospects, covering the Carolina Hurricanes. He is Austin Broad. You can follow him on Twitter at AustinBroad_TCB. Austin, I would say welcome back, but at this point, it seems like it's we're just going through the motions here every week with this team.
Yeah, I mean, we're up to 9 in a row now. They've lost 5-2, 4 of their last 5 games. Last Friday, Kevin Adams said he was angry. This was flat out unacceptable, which I took as a good thing because we never heard that from the previous GM. But here we are a week later, still haven't won a game, and there's still been no change whatsoever inside this organization. So, like you said, at this point, we're just going through the motions. And it's not completely out of the realm of possibility, depending on Jack Eichel's injury, that this team could potentially tie the longest losing streak in NHL history of 17 games with the way things are going.
Yeah, it's at the 9, like you mentioned. And the Kevin Adams thing, quickly touch on that, is a lot of people were feeling good about that press conference because they said, you know what, it was a breath of fresh air. At least Adams came out and said something. Somebody other than Ralph Kruger was talking about this organization and saying that what everybody else has been seeing, fans, media, everybody has been seeing how bad this team has played. So for Adams to actually say something was meaningful. But since then, like we mentioned in the pre-show off air, like, what has changed since that press conference? They've lost 4 straight games, and nothing has changed. A coaching change hasn't happened. Toby Reeder was replaced in the lineup, so I guess that's your big change to shake things up. Your captain is now injured. So where are you going with this? It's just empty words to me at this point. And where is the actual, where are the changes? Words are just empty to me at this point.
No, exactly. Those words, like I said, at the time, I was very impressed with Adams' press conference, to see that he was upset, to see that he said that he had the power to make changes if he see fit, blah, blah, blah. But like, we've been here for a week and nothing has changed. It's only adding fuel to the fire that Adams really doesn't have the authority that he says he has. It's only adding fuel to the fire of those conspiracy theories that the Pagulas run everything and Adams is just a puppet. It's not good. Like, things are spiraling out of control in Saberland, and we know fans are coming a week from tomorrow on the 20th. They had to open those ticket sales to the general public because not enough season ticket holders bought tickets to sell out that first game. So that's how bad things are getting right now. We'll see if things do end up, like, it's been a week. I know, like, people are like, oh, it's only been a week, but when it's been a week in this season and you're playing 5 games every week pretty much, the week is a long period of time, and nothing has actually gotten worse since Adams had talked because, like you said, Eichel is out now. We're going to dive into that. Cousins looks like he could miss some time after that hit last night. basically nothing is going right for the Sabres, and the longer this goes without a change, it's only going to get worse, and it's only going to get worse on and off the ice for not only the team but for the owners and the fan base as well, because we're seriously at a point where they say it every year, but now I actually believe it for the first time. We're actually at a point where they might lose a big portion of this fan base.
Yeah, in a year that was supposed to be so optimistic, this isn't the tank year. This is a year that this team had the most talent they've had in the last decade, and it's going sour fast. So we'll dive into that. This first segment today is brought to you by Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, home of the best pizza and wing combos in Niagara Falls, Ontario. From Niagara this week, 4 years running. Visit them at carmine'spizzeria.ca and like their Facebook page. Available for call-in, pickup, or delivery. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, way too good. I can't say that the Sabres are way too good, Austin, but what's going on with the captain, Jack Eichel? He left the game against the Islanders and didn't return, and then we got an update that it could either be short-term or long-term. So what is going on with the captain? And at this point, do you think it's best to just shut him down for the rest of the year with the way that this thing is hitting this Titanic is hitting the iceberg?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? I mean, Darren Dreger today, they kind of touched on it on Insider Trading last night too, I guess. Dreger said that Buffalo didn't really have any big concerns with Eichel's health, and they fully supported him going to get the second opinion. And to me, that's a little bit of a contradiction, because typically you don't go for a second opinion if this is a minor issue. I mean, at the least amount of time he can miss is that 7 to 10 days, because he's going out of town, so he will have to quarantine when he comes back. But this season is lost. It's hard, because of course if he's healthy, I want Jack Eichel to play, because the team isn't really watchable now that Cousins is potentially out and Eichel is out. But at the same time, you got to look at how Jack was playing this year. He obviously wasn't himself. That leads into further issues where the coaching staff said he was fine when he obviously wasn't. It's basically it's an ugly situation regarding Jack Eichel, and hopefully we get some clarification soon, because you might be right. At this point, it might be worth it just to say, hey, just shut it down, focus on next year. This year's obviously a wash. The only way I would be happy to see Eichel come back is if, one, he's healthy, and two, there's a new coach in charge of this team, because other than those two reasons, I don't really see any logical reason where Eichel should come back and play, because it's to the point now where Eichel's not even worried about the team. He's worried about his own future, and any long-term injury could potentially hurt his career going forward. And if I was him, it just wouldn't be worth it to me.
Yeah, I mean, the quiz on TSN had, I think Dave Poulin said 75%, and then Darren Dreger said 12%, and Jeff O'Neill said 0% chance that Eichel is back for the 2021-22 season. So who knows at this point, but again, that's something that we'll have to talk about in the summertime. But it looks like Jack Eichel is going to be out, and again, I'm not going to be too concerned about it. It's not, this season is a wash. They're not going anywhere. They're in last place. So if there was a year to shut down Jack Eichel and to stop further injury and further serious injury from occurring in the future, and halting his development as a top player in this league, I would just rather shut him down for the rest of the year, because there's nothing positive that's going to come from it. If anything, his morale and his will to play will probably be worse playing on this team the rest of the year for Ralph Krueger as the head coach. But speaking of Ralph Krueger as the head coach, Austin, we put a poll up yesterday on our Sabres Twitter. And again, if you're not following that Twitter account, we post a poll every week before our show. So it's at AGM Sabres Pod. We usually put up 1 or 2 polls a week, and interactive as well. So we always read those results on the show. So please make sure you're following us there for Sabres updates. So the poll we put up yesterday was, out of these options, who is most likely to be the Buffalo Sabres coach going into next season? The options we put were Ralph Krueger, Bruce Boudreau, Gerard Gallant, and an unknown NCAA coach. And the results of that poll were 42% an unknown NCAA coach, 31% Bruce Boudreau, 21% Gerard Gallant, and 6% to soccer boy Ralph Krueger. Austin, does the results of this poll shock you at all?
No, the results of the poll doesn't shock me at all, because really the hot names have been, Bruce Boudreau. I believe it was Josh Reed from Channel 4 said that, he fully believes that, one, Bruce Boudreau wants to coach, which I think is pretty obvious, and two, that he believes that Bruce Boudreau would have a lot of interest in the Buffalo job. He lives in Hershey, Pennsylvania, not too far away. And then Jeremy White from WGR said that he would every once in a while he teases a little tidbit of inside information that he has, and he put out that fans should be looking at the college ranks for the potential next coach. So those two options getting the most votes don't surprise me at all. In a perfect world, Boudreau would be coaching the team right now, but obviously that's not the case. So I believe strongly that it will be one of those two options. I think if it's not Bruce Boudreau, it will be an NCAA coach.
Yeah, I mean, those are two different ends of the spectrum, though. One is obviously unproven. The other one is a proven coach in the league. And again, I think he's working for the NHL Network right now. So obviously there might be some quarantine involved with that. But again, even if you were to make a coaching change at this point, just have your assistants coach, or, they were saying Jay McKee could come in and coach, or somebody. They have people on the staff, or even Appert from the AHL, call him up from Rochester. Does it really matter at this point? Just get him through the rest of this if you really want to hire your guy in the summertime, if that's what Adams wants to do. If there's a guy that he currently wants on another staff that he cannot talk to at this point, it just seems like Ralph needs to get out of there. As much as I respect Ralph as a smart person, he's not right to be a head coach in the NHL. He should be somewhere else within an organization, higher up, doing some sort of business or marketing or something like that, because this position is just not for him. But as far as the Boudreau thing, I mean, again, he's jinxed as far as playoff time goes. He doesn't actually win in the playoffs, but every team that he has been on, he has brought them to the playoffs. Minnesota and Anaheim with lesser talent than he had with Washington and those powerhouse offensive teams. And I think he could look at this roster and say there's a lot of power on this team as far as on the offensive side, and he would let them play offense, which is clearly what this coaching staff is not letting this team do. You see Rasmus Dahlin as the worst plus-minus in the NHL, and like we had mentioned, he kind of said that he's not really didn't come out and say it, but he was insinuating that he's not really allowed to play offense, and he has to stick to defense, which as a defenseman is great and all, but when you're a guy with that kind of talent, you should be allowed to jump in on the rush and play your offensive game, and with a lot of the players on this team, that is not the case.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you there that, if Bruce Boudreau was in there, I think at the very least, he would adapt the system to fit the roster at the very least. Whereas it's very clear with Ralph Krueger that the players need to adapt to his system. And to be honest, that's just not the way that coaches should be approaching the game, especially nowadays, especially in the NHL. You should be wanting your players to play the style that fits their playing style. I mean, you look at the makeup of this roster. Look at the defense alone. Obviously, we have the skill on the front end, but you have a guy like Jacob Bryson, who has been actually pretty impressive since joining this team. Rasmus Dahlin, Brandon Montour, even to an extent before he kind of fell off a cliff, which I think part of it can be attributed to Ralph Krueger in this defensive system. Henry Okiharju, those four guys alone, you should be telling them, take risks, take the puck. Like, look how good Bryson is when he grabs that puck and just goes end to end. I don't know if he's basically not tainted by Ralph's system yet, or it's because he just refuses to play any style of hockey that doesn't work for him. So he just flat out refuses to, but you're also seeing it from Montour a little bit more. So I don't know if it's, the coach is adjusting at all, or if it's the players just saying, I'm doing what I want to do. But it's very clear that Rasmus Dahlin is being told to focus more on defense than he is on offense, which, again, he's a first overall pick. You want him to be good at defense. I'm not going against that at all. But you look at the highlights of why he was so highly touted and why he was a first overall pick. It's because he was going end to end and making people look silly in the Swedish Hockey League. That's why you drafted him. And we're not really – we saw it a little bit under Phil Housley. We see a glimpse of it every once in a while here and there, but we just don't see it that often anymore. And I think a big portion of that is to do with coaching. Boudreau would probably allow that. And just wanted to throw two names out there because we talked about the college ranks. Nate Lehman, he's currently the coach of Providence College, two-time national champion. He coached Jacob Bryson, so that's a name that I would watch if they're going to the college ranks. He's a very successful college head coach. He's been with Providence for a long time, since 2012, and he coached Union the year that they won the national championship with Shane Gostisbehere. He said Jacob Bryson is the best defenseman he has ever coached. So it's pretty high praise for a guy like Jacob Bryson.
Wow. Yeah.
And the other name I would throw out there is the University of Minnesota Duluth head coach, Scott Sandolin. These are two guys that have been linked to the NHL before. Sandolin, I believe the Sabres had interest in him a while ago, so I don't know if he has an actual link there, but Lehman has a link to Jacob Bryson. That could be a name that they're looking at. Both have won national championships. Both have been very successful college head coaches. That doesn't really always translate to the NHL. I think, Jim Montgomery, before he got fired from Dallas, was the most only recent example of a college head coach having NHL success. But those are two ends of the spectrum. All three of those guys, if they came in and said, I'm going to play this way or I'm going to adapt my system to fit this roster, they're already an upgrade over Ralph Kruger in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, you brought it up there. There's always a risk with college head coaches. The perfect example to me is Dave Haxtell when he was brought in with the Philadelphia Flyers, and they thought that things were going to change greatly at that point, and instead it went backwards with Dave Haxtell as the head coach coming from college. So for me, I mean, it's always a crapshoot. You have like the proven guys that keep getting recycled, like Peter Laviolette, the Bruce Boudreaux of the world, and then you have these new coaches coming up from the NCAA who might get a shot, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But again, like you said, if they can adapt to these players' skill sets rather than the players having to adapt and change their skill set to fit the coach, which obviously has not worked for Ralph. I mean, you look at his coaching record with the Sabres, it's 4-4-7, 36-46, 12. It's awful in 2 years. And again, I look at Ralph Kruger and the teams that he's coached over the years with Switzerland. I just think that those teams were not the most skilled teams. So I think he was used to not having as much skill up front and having to play a more defensive style of hockey and try to grind out wins, which is fine when you're using Team Switzerland, back when they were still developing as a good hockey country. But it's another thing to, have that same mindset going into coaching an NHL team like the Sabres, who have a ton of offensive talent, and not being able to adjust to their skill set, which we have seen guys like Jeff Skinner, Jack Eichel, Taylor Hall, and Sam Reinhart, Victor Olofsson, all these guys, as far as their development and their point totals, have all gone down and gone backwards under this coach in 2 years.
Yeah, no, exactly. And another college head coach who is pretty much on the hot seat, Jack Eichel's former coach, is currently coaching the New York Rangers. Another example of college head coaches don't always work out. So I agree. I totally agree with you there. It's basically with the coaching hires, you're stuck in a loop. The Sabres have tried the experienced Stanley Cup winner in Dan Bilesma. They tried the new, young, up-and-coming assistant coach in Phil Housley. They tried the out-of-the-box hire in Ralph Kruger.
They tried gardening gloves in Ronnie
Ralston. The only thing they really haven't tried is the NCAA route. This would be their last. So who knows? I do think they're going to lean more towards that, because I also don't believe that. I mean, they're paying Ralph Kruger $3.9 million, which is just, I know the coaches don't count towards the cap, but it is insane to be paying a head coach that much money. I know the Mike Babcock deal with Toronto kind of exploded the salary for coaches, but it's just crazy to be paying a coach that much money and to see what is happening. I mean, so they're in a loop. They've tried. Do you want to do the retread? Do you want to do the young up and coming college guy? Or do you, if they're waiting for the college head coach, if that is rumor does have legs, we're waiting at least another month before Ralph is fired, because you can't hire the coach until the season's over. The NCAA season, my bad, not the not the NHL season.
It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere at this point, and
no, it does not.
But we'll have to see what goes on with Ralph Kruger. But yeah, he's making a ton of money, and that's another thing that you have to factor in, is that do they want to pay another coach to not coach this team, which they are currently paying 2 or 3 coaches right now, and Ralph's under contract for one more season after this year. But I mean, for the sake of their fan base and them selling tickets, I would think that Ralph Kruger would not be coaching this team going into next year. So that would be just me. But thank you to everybody who participated in the poll. And again, we'll put up another poll for next week's show. And make sure you're following the Twitter account at AGM Sabres Pod for updates on the Sabres. So with that said, let's take our first commercial break on the show today, and we'll come back and discuss the 3 games against the New York Islanders and what that looks like as far as the goaltending situation and what this looks like for the roster. So stay right here. We'll be right back on the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Sabres edition, and right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network.
J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride in providing elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel great about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity. Offering unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team, they connect with their customers to simplify the process to make their life easier and to make their homes beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, or find out more at jnlflooring.com. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 905-358-3299 J&L Flooring.
The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill is located on the top of Clifton Hill and just a 5-minute walk from the majestic Niagara Falls. It is conveniently nestled in the heart of the tourist district. A family-owned and operated business, the Spicy Olive opened its doors in May of 2003 and has since been established as an authentic and unique Italian restaurant and bar. Its rustic ambiance and time-worn finishing provide a warm and inviting dining experience. Offering an array of delicious dishes, they specialize in authentic Italian cuisine, homemade sauces, fresh ingredients, and consistently providing a strong foundation on which they build their menu. As night falls, the Spicy Olive shifts to a lively lounge where drinks and live music come together to make a perfect evening. For more than 15 years, they have provided not only for their dedicated locals, but their customers from all over the world with authentic Italian food and great live entertainment. Open daily 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for dinner and till 2 a.m. for drinks. Check out their new menu and book reservations on their website at Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, it's with an E at the end, .com, or call 905-371-2323 for reservations as well. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to segment 2 of our Niagara Hockey Lowdown Sabres edition. Brandon Caputo and Austin Broad back with you here. And this segment today is brought to you by J&L Flooring, a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. Simplified processes and making homes beautiful are their specialties. Visit them at jnlflooring.com to start on the floor of your dreams today. Big Sabres fans as well, so if you want to support some Sabres fans, go and check them out as well. So, Austin, let's take a look at this debacle here over the last week. 4 5-2 losses and a 5-4 shootout loss to the Philadelphia Flyers, in which they were winning that game, and Carter Hart was yanked after the first period, and they still couldn't come away with the 2 points in that game. So, what do you think of these 5-2 losses here, and why do you think Ralph Krueger continues to have optimism about the way that they are playing?
What do I think about the losses? Well, at least they're consistent at something, and that's losing 5-2. Why Ralph Krueger is positive by any means is, one, I guess he kind of has to be because he's the head coach. Because I don't see anything from this team on a nightly basis that gives anybody any reason to be positive about. Whether it's, I mean, they don't score, they don't stop the puck from going into the net, and their defense, which was pretty strong at the start of the year, has completely fallen apart. Try not mincing words here. Basically, on a nightly basis, I go into the games not expecting them to win at this point now, and that's not a good place to be in as a fan. It's not a good place to be in as a hockey player. You heard Eric Stahl talk about how it's kind of been a little bit of a miserable situation this year, and I don't blame him for using those words at all.
Yeah, I mean, his family's back in Minnesota. He's in Buffalo, supposed to be playing for a team that's supposed to have a contending year, and he's supposed to mentor guys like Dylan Cousins, Jack Eichel, and it just hasn't worked out in that regard. So he might get dealt at the trade deadline, which, again, we can get into that as well. But as far as the games go, I mean, I don't want to rag on the goaltending because this team can't score goals, and they clearly don't value scoring goals because Ralph Krueger basically backhand complimented Jeff Skinner by saying he finally scored a goal, but that is how Jeff the way he put it was something along the lines of, this is how Jeff values being successful in the league, is scoring goals. And that was something that was a hot topic as far as what did he mean by that? Was that a shot at Jeff Skinner saying that he only cares about scoring goals and that's how he measures his success in the league? Well, newsflash to you, Ralph. I don't know if you knew this or not, but you need to score goals in order to win games. So, especially when you're a guy that scored 30 to 40 goals in the league, I don't really think that him needing to score goals to be successful is such a bad thing. He's not supposed to be a fourth line checking forward. He's supposed to be scoring goals. He's making $9 million a year. So, I didn't really understand those comments. What did you think of that?
Yeah, he basically said it was a big thing. Like it was a big thing for Jeff because he's someone who has measured the success of his career on scoring goals. And I know some people in the media were like, "Oh, I don't see that as a shot," but basically, it did sound like he was basically saying, "Okay, Jeff only cares about scoring goals." Which imagine that a goal scorer who is paid to score goals cares about scoring goals. Newsflash, that's not surprising.
Like that's the thing. Why is he not more optimistic? Like he's optimistic about the team losing every game, but he's not optimistic about Jeff Skinner finally scoring a goal. Like shouldn't that have been something that he had prepared like way before to say to finally when Jeff Skinner scored? Oh, we're so happy for him. Like it just seemed like he didn't care whatsoever that Jeff Skinner finally scored his first goal of the season. It seemed like it was just like water off a camel's back at that point. It seemed like he did not care an inch about that moment at all.
That was the easiest lob question I think a head coach could have gotten was, "Hey, Jeff Skinner's been on a scoring slump. He finally scored. Let's ask him." And all he has to do is say, "Yeah, like we're so happy for Jeff. Hopefully we can get more of that going forward." That's it. You say that, even if it wasn't meant to as a slap in the face or a backhanded compliment, the fact that he went out of his way to answer it that way made it open for interpretation that he was backhand complimenting Jeff Skinner. It sure as heck seemed to me that that was a backhanded compliment, saying all he cares about is scoring goals. So yeah, I mean, that was the easiest answer that could have ever been. Just been like, yeah, we're happy for Jeff. Hopefully we can get more of that from him going forward. Mm-hmm. But no, he chose to go the other way. I mean, he's been playing with Casey Middlestat, and I kind of like the way that they've been playing lately, but he still doesn't play that much. Even Dylan Cousins, when Jack Eichel went out, was not playing that many minutes before his injury last night. I mean, I don't know this coach's plan. Like, on one hand, he turns guys like Curtis Lazar and Riley Sheehan into like pretty decent NHL bottom six players. But at the same time, your star players don't generate anything. So if I'm running this team and I hear my coach what sounds like a backhanded compliment, I mean, we'll never know, but it definitely sounded like one to my $9 million player, which basically the owners forced that contract. I don't really think that the Sabres wanted to give him $9 million. By the Sabres, I mean Botterill wanted to give him $9 million, but the owner said, "You get this deal done. We can't lose this guy." He gets it done, and then you're letting the new head coach come in and treat him like this. Like there's a big, for a guy who talks about how on par he is and how the communication is fantastic between all levels of the organization. This organization really doesn't seem like one that has open communication because it seems like they are not on the same page about anything.
There seems to be a disconnect there, especially with those two. And good on Jeff Skinner. I mean, he's been taking the high road in this. And I mean, what else could he do? If he came out and just blasted his head coach, he would be labeled as one of those guys that's, the quote-unquote coach killer and he's uncoachable, everything like that. But Jeff Skinner, he's a class act, and he's been taking this as best he can. Hasn't really said one negative thing other than he doesn't really understand sitting in the press box how that made him any better, especially as a veteran in this league who has played many years in the league. It's not like he's a first-year player or second-year player who's still learning how to play in the league. So other than that, I think he's done a good job at keeping it under wraps, as difficult as it has been for him. But back to the goaltending point, I mean, again, I didn't want to rag on the goaltenders, but since Linus Ullmark went down, this has just been a complete mess. I mean, you have Jonas Johansson coming up from Rochester, and I'm not blaming him because that's a tough situation for an AHL goaltender to be shoved into. Absolutely. Playing almost, every other game because the other backup goaltender who has to step into the starting goaltender role is incompetent of stopping anything. So, I mean, you combined Jonas Johansson from John Vogel, obviously. The 72 goalies who have appeared in 5 games, Jonas Johansson and Carter Hutton are tied for 58th of the 62 with a combined .883 save percentage. Their combined record is 1-11-2.
Yeah. I mean, we were sitting here only a week ago, and this was the one I understood why Kevin Adams said it, because you don't ever just publicly shame your goalies. That's just some unwritten rule in hockey, which I'm not on board with, but whatever. He said that he doesn't believe goaltending is a problem because their high danger save percentage was really high. That's cool. Here's some 5-on-5 stats from Natural Stat Trick. Carter Hutton has faced 67 shots from the high danger area. He's given up 16 high danger goals. He has a high danger save percentage of .761. Jonas Johansson is .755. For comparison, Linus Ullmark, he has a high danger save percentage of 879. So we're talking about, when Ullmark's in net, sure, he stops the high danger chances. When Carter Hutton and Jonas Johansson are in net, they don't stop anything. Again, no disrespect to Jonas Johansson. Like, he was super good in Rochester last year. Last year on the show, I was clamoring for him to get an NHL shot. Once he got his NHL shot, I was like, holy cow, I missed the mark. He is not an NHL goalie. It's no disrespect to him. He was the third string goalie. I mean, this is more on the team for not upgrading their goaltending depth, which we talked about before the season. Everyone knew before the season was going to be a problem because Ullmark, just as good as he is, he's not reliable enough to play a full season because he usually gets hurt. It's just one of those things. It is what it is. Carter Hutton and Johansson have combined one win this year.
And somehow there's interest in Jonas Johansson, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's gotten to a point where it will never happen because Buffalo did not put in a claim on Alex Stalock, who would have been an improvement. But it's gotten to a point where I need Carolina's goalies to get healthy so Alex Nedeljkovic gets waived so that Buffalo can claim him. I don't think they will, but that is really the only. Who are they going to, like? Adams is sitting there talking about how desperately he's trying to make a trade. We hear Darren Dreger say the same thing. Oh, he's working hard. They're open for sale. These are the exact same things we heard about Jason Botterill. What did Jason Botterill do? He got us Michael Frolik and Wayne Simmons. Oh, and Dominic Cahoon, who the new general manager let walk. So spare me that they're trying to make trades because...
Significant trades?
Like, cool, we're going to sell off Brandon Montour, Colin Miller, Taylor Hall, and Eric Stahl and get probably nothing in return. I mean, Rochester's having COVID issues right now, so they can't even call anybody up. This is not going to get any prettier. I know Adam said goaltending wasn't a big concern. Well, it better be. This whole team is a concern. I am very sorry to say it. As much as I love some of the players on this team is not good. They should be good. They should be good. They have the talent on paper to be a very decent hockey team. Where's the disconnect? I know it's people hate saying it. Well, we've changed the coach so many times. Yeah, I mean, sure, we've changed the coach so many times. I get it. But we can't just keep a head coach here or keep a system in place here for the sake of keeping the same system here. When it's not working, you have to change it. If you're going to keep Ralph, you better change this roster from top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, things are going to get worse. I mean, nobody's going to have any value left. Nobody's going to have any will left anymore. I mean, I'm glad they're not just go ahead and trading Jack Eichel for the sake of doing it. But again, if these other guys are going to get moved, like, why is the coach not being changed in that regard? If it really is just a system thing, then you should be able to bring in another coach and let these guys just play the rest of the season and see what you got.
100%. I mean, this draft isn't full of high-level talents, so no one wants to see the Sabres go for first overall pick.
This isn't the year to tank. It would be next year, but of course that's the Sabres' luck here.
I would much rather see the Sabres fire Kruger right now, bring in a new coach, and have the team go on a tear. Because, sure, they're not going to make the playoffs, but at least it would give us some validation that it was the coach's fault. Now, if you fire the head coach and things don't change, there's a whole different problem.
But at least you can see that. You can evaluate that.
Like you said, this coach has been successful with teams that aren't exactly the most high-skilled. I don't want to see the roster become a not high-skilled roster so this coach can be successful. This was a nice out-of-the-box hire that people were excited for, but we're a year and a half into it.
It didn't work.
It did not work. People talked about how Housley got fired because they didn't improve. Again, they haven't improved since Housley left. They haven't improved under Ralph Kruger. So continuity for continuity's sake is not a good thing. And I hope that the Sabres realize that. I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to happen until the offseason, which means this year is going to be very long for people like you and me who need to pump out content on this team.
I mean, we were sitting here last year and thought it couldn't get any worse. And we thought that this year was the year that they were going to be coming back up. And it has not. It's been the opposite. I think we're in a spot this year that was maybe worse than we were at this point last year before the season was halted.
This spot is worse than we were in 2014-15 because we're not trying to be bad this year. At least I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, that behind blue and gold thing when Taylor Hall signed with Buffalo and Ralph Kruger was in that that conference call, and he was a big reason why Taylor Hall signed here. And you have Terry Pegula behind the closed door talking with Kevin Adams saying, if we acquire this guy, we're trying to win the Stanley Cup. We're dead last.
That's the killer. You were on record. That is out in the world. You were on record saying, if we get Taylor Hall, we will contend for a Stanley Cup. You're in dead last. How do you not make a change?
And if he's saying
your
that,
words just empty.
If he's saying that and we're that far off, I mean, how can anybody have any sort of confidence in this organization right now?
No, and honestly, it's been a slow. Actually, I don't know if it's been that. Well, it's been slow because it's been 5-6 years. The fan base is pretty much fed up. I used to be like, I'm not going to turn cynical like this fan base. I still have hope. Until this guy is gone, I have no reason for hope.
And again, it's 10 years now. And again, it's not like they can see the horizon getting any better. It's like, are they going to go for another rebuild? Are they discussing trying to trade everybody? Are they discussing trying to retool? Again, there's no 1 or 2 years this scheme's going to be great. They don't even know if everybody's going to be gone and they're going to be starting another 3 to 5 year rebuild. That's the problem.
Their arguable best player this year, Sam Reinhart, is a restricted free agent who just needs one more 1-year deal before he gets UFA status. What's stopping him from saying, I don't want to sign with you, I'm going to file for arbitration, get my 1-year deal, walk to free agency and leave? What's stopping him from doing that? What right now tells Sam Reinhart to sign long-term in Buffalo? There's no bright spot on the horizon right now, like you said.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a situation where it's likely you need to trade Eichel and Reinhart, the 2 players that Tim Murray was bad for.
Yeah,
by the way.
You spent 2 years of being the worst team in the NHL to try to get those 2 guys.
Tim Murray's 2 second overall picks are likely going to be gone. Now, it's not a Briere-Drury type situation because the team wasn't that good, but it's pretty darn close.
Especially when you think of all the years that were wasted for this moment. And then it's all for what? So you're telling me that the last 10 years of us watching this team was we basically could have just went in the time machine and just went
not to mention the new lottery rules. The Sabres, you can't even win the lottery more than twice in a 5-year period. Not that they're going to win the lottery, but there's new lottery rules coming into effect that basically tell you better be good, otherwise you're not going to get rewarded for being bad.
So the Edmontons and the New Jerseys of the world aren't going to win it every year.
No, the good news is you can only drop 2 spots, so Buffalo at worst will only pick 3rd this year, but this is a year where you don't even want to pick in the top 5 because
there's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, it's
again,
like you said, there's no bright spot, and for guys like me and you, the fact that we're still doing this and the fact that other people are still pumping out content, I applaud you. I applaud people like us.
Yeah, we're in just as much pain as anybody else within this organization, which we have yet to see really any emotion from this organization to really know that it's unacceptable, other than Kevin Adams saying it's unacceptable. But again, those words have just become hollow at this point because it doesn't seem like anything else within the organization is even living up to that statement. They don't see it as unacceptable because what has been happening continues to happen 9 games in a row, and it could be up to 17. And what are we going to be sitting here next week saying the same thing? I hope not. I hope after the game against Pittsburgh, if they do lose, then something happens because this isn't going anywhere good, and it's only going to be worse for every person within this organization, players, coaching staff, and anybody. And like you said, I mean, the biggest, I guess, reflection of that is that they couldn't even sell 1,800 tickets to season ticket holders for next week's first home game against the Boston Bruins. So that right there should be an indication of this is unacceptable.
Yeah, and here's a question that really, it's kind of rhetorical, but I want your opinion on it, and I think I know your opinion on it. Say they come out and win tomorrow night. What does that really change?
Nothing. I'm not going to feel like, oh, this team's going on a run. They're going to move up 3 spots in the standings and have a chance at this. They're done. They are finished. The fact that they are so far out of this thing, Austin, in a league that's supposed to be made for parity, where you only have a 0, 1, and 2 point system, and the fact that they're playing the same teams over and over again, the fact that they are 13 points out right now, technically more because the Flyers have 1 more game in hand as well. So they could be upwards of 15 points out of the last playoff spot, or even more than that, actually. Boston is actually in 4th, Philadelphia is in 5th. They are 13 points back of the 5th place team who's not even in the playoffs. So that right there, they are so far out of this thing in a league that's supposed to have parity. That right there is an indication of things that need to be changed. They are nowhere close right now in a division that's supposed to be made for parity, and a league that's supposed to be made for parity when you're playing the same team 7 or 8 times in this season, and they have been basically demolished by everybody that they have played. So far they played Pittsburgh once finally, and they haven't played Boston yet. Other than that, every other team other than the Devils has brought this team to the woodshed.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like that's what's going to be the killer is the longer we go without a significant change, the second Buffalo gets a win, we're going to have to hear this coach talk about progress and how the system works. And it's like, dude, you won 1 game. And I'm not putting it past this organization to look at that 1 win and be like, yeah, we can give them more time.
They have the most goals against in this division, and they have the least amount of goals for in this division. And they have the worst goal differential in this division. And they currently sit with a 9-game losing streak in this division. I don't really know what else you can say other than they are the outlier within this division, which is sad considering that New Jersey is obviously they've got some skilled young talent, but they were supposed to be the team that finished dead last in this division as a team that's still up and coming and still trying to build back up after some really bad years. And Lindy Ruff has done, I think, of as good of a job as you could expect from this team given how tough some of these teams within this division were expected to be. But the fact that Buffalo was behind them at this point when Buffalo is far ahead of New Jersey within their team development is inexcusable to me.
Yeah, so Buffalo has 54 total goals this year in all strengths. There are 11 teams that have 54 or more 5-on-5 goals. Like our power play hasn't scored a goal since that New Jersey game on February 25th. They're not good at anything anymore.
Yeah.
Like, and we're going to have to sit here day by day without a change, hearing the principles, hearing this stuff. Like, yeah. I don't know.
I think it's time to put a wrap on the show today. I think that's about it. That's all we can say. We'll be back next week to talk more. We'll get into more of the trade rumor stuff next week. But again, this was basically just an episode that you can see in the title, Time for Changes. And that's basically what we have discussed today, you know, about the state of this organization. And even your article last week on our website, it's just, we wish we were talking more positive about this team, but they're not. We got to hold them accountable because they're the team that we care about the most. So we have to hold them to a higher standard, the highest standard. And for us to put our names behind it is it saddens me that, you know, we are putting our you know, necks out on the line for this team and nothing is producing or changing. So again, I don't know if you have any final closing remarks, but that's basically it for me.
Yeah, like for a team that preaches accountability, that's all this coach talks about. The team doesn't hold themselves accountable. And one last quick note, I don't see anything coming out of it, but today is the first day they can talk to Taylor Hall about a possible contract extension. So we might see a report on that here and there if they actually are talking. But at this point, like you said, they don't hold themselves. They talk about holding themselves accountable. It's very clear right now that they don't until a change is made. There's no reason to believe that they have a standard right now, because if they have any, like Montreal and Calgary fired their coaches with 500 or better than 500 records. We're the worst placed team in the league on a 9-game losing streak. And there's not even rumblings about this coach being fired.
Yeah. Again, I mean, those games against the Islanders should speak for themselves right there. I mean, 5-2 losses in 3 straight games, and the run that they're on right now, how can you not fire the coach? Again, Montreal had over 500 record, like you just mentioned, and they fired their coach. So things can be done. So we'll see if things are done after this weekend, and we'll talk next week before that Boston game with fans. We'll have to see how many fans are booing in that game, and maybe they won't allow fans back in after that Boston game. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode of the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Sabres edition right here in the Armchair GM Sports Network. Sorry it wasn't the most optimistic episode, but again, we mentioned things that needed to be said and talked about with this organization, and we will give you the truth, nothing but the truth on this show, and not sugarcoat anything in that regard. So with that said, this has been the Niagara Hockey Lowdown Sabres edition on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your source of North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the beautiful Niagara region. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the Sabres Edition podcast. My name is Brandon Caputo. Follow me on Twitter at Caputo13 with a Canadian Z. As well, you can follow my co-host Austin at Austin Broad _ TCB. As well, check out his stuff at the charging Buffalo and Dobber prospects for the Carolina Hurricanes as well. And a big thank you to all of our great sponsors who will put us on, support the network, keeping the show on the air. Make sure you're checking them out and telling them that the Armchair GM sent you. And finally, to you viewers out there and fellow Sabres fans, we feel your pain, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with you for this episode. And again, this has been the Sabres Edition podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys next week.